Listen very carefully because if you get Social Security, December just turned into the most confusing month we've seen in years. For millions of seniors, disabled Americans, and fixed-income families, the usual payment schedule just shifted in a way that even banks weren't prepared for. Right now, thousands of people are already seeing dates move, deposits show up early, or messages that don't match what their banks are showing. Some are hearing rumors about delays. Others are wondering if a missing payment means something is wrong with their benefits. And a very small group may even get two payments in the same week. The real reason behind all this is much deeper than just early checks or holiday adjustments. December has always been a tricky month because of federal holidays, bank cutoff windows, and the way benefits get scheduled. But this year, something unusual happened. A timing shift inside the federal calendar lined up with a year-end banking backlog and a new internal processing change that the public wasn't supposed to notice. And when all three things hit at the same time, December became a maze of payment patterns that even customer service representatives struggled to explain. As of now, every Social Security group is seeing something different. Retirees, disability recipients, survivors, and others all have slightly different rules for December. And when one little adjustment moves even a single day, everything else shifts with it. That's the root of the confusion. Some people see their payment earlier than expected, some see it later, and most people have no idea why it's happening. But here's the twist. This wasn't announced publicly. No big press release. No warning. No widespread bulletin from banks. Instead, it quietly showed up in the background of the federal system and the effects started rolling out before anyone could explain what was going on. And now the questions are piling up. Why did this shift happen? Who does it affect? And most importantly, what does it mean for your December money? That's where this gets interesting. Because the confusion didn't start on December 1st. It actually started weeks earlier with a single change that slipped under the radar and created a chain reaction that hit every Social Security group differently. Here's where the confusion actually started. To understand why December spiraled into chaos, you need to know the four triggers that all collided at the exact same time. None of them alone would have caused a major problem, but together they created one of the most confusing Social Security months we've seen in over a decade. The first trigger was the federal holiday placement. This year the holiday calendar lined up in a way that forced certain payments to shift earlier than normal. There's a strict rule. If your payment date falls on a weekend or federal holiday, it must be pushed back to the previous business day. That sounds simple, but in December, even a one-day change throws the entire rhythm off. That early shift then causes the next week's cycle to move, which then impacts the following week, and suddenly the entire month feels out of order. The second trigger was the early release rule. This affects recipients the most when January's payment can't be released on a holiday. December ends up carrying an extra check. And when that extra payment lands so close to other December deposits, people assume something is wrong, missing, or doubled. The truth is it's just the calendar. But most people never get a clear explanation. The third trigger hits silently from the banking system. Banks perform year-end reconciliation in December, which means they handle higher than normal transaction volume while preparing to close their financial books for the year. Some banks updated their processing windows without publicly announcing it. As a result, deposits that normally appear at 3 in the morning might suddenly appear at 8 in the morning or the next business day. That delay doesn't mean your money is gone. It just means your bank paused the release for internal processing, but nobody tells customers that. And then there was the fourth trigger, the one that almost nobody knows about. In mid-November, regional offices started reporting something called an internal timing misalignment. It was a short-term processing delay that affected batch files sent from the federal level to the Federal Reserve and then from the Federal Reserve to individual banks. It wasn't a system failure. It wasn't a shutdown. It was simply a timing shift. But even a tiny delay at the federal level creates a ripple effect throughout the entire system. What should have been a smooth handoff turned into a 24 to 72-hour window where banks and the system were not perfectly in sync. This misalignment didn't stop payments. It didn't cancel anything, but it changed when some people saw pending deposits, when others saw nothing at all, and when a few saw early activity before their official date. That 72-hour gap is the heart of the December confusion. It made everything look unpredictable, even though the benefits themselves never change. And here's what made it worse. None of these 4 triggers were communicated clearly to the public. No warning letter, no emergency bulletin, just silence. So people were left trying to figure out what was happening by refreshing their online banking apps, calling hotlines with 2-hour wait times, or comparing payment dates with friends and family. Meanwhile, offices confirmed internally that December would be irregular across multiple categories, but they didn't have a simple way to explain the technical reasons to the average person. So word spread through rumors instead of reliable information. Now let's talk about what all of this actually means for you. Because the impact isn't the same for everyone. December's confusion affects each group differently, and that's exactly why people are panicking. Once you understand your category, the entire month makes sense. If you get supplemental income, you're seeing the biggest shock. Your regular December payment arrives at the start of the month, but your January payment is coming early at the very end of December. That means 2 payments in the same month. It's not extra money. It's not a bonus. It's simply January's payment arriving early because payments can't be made on a holiday. But when both deposits land close together, people think something is duplicated or missing. If you're on disability or retirement benefits, your dates depend on your birthday group. And this year, those groups are experiencing different outcomes. Some are getting payments earlier than expected because a holiday pushed everything forward. Others are seeing small delays because their banks are processing files later than normal. And a handful of people fall into the window where the federal timing misalignment created a temporary blackout period. They might see the deposit pending 1 minute and gone the next, or nothing at all until their bank finishes its overnight process. Survivor benefits and children's benefits follow their own schedule. And this year, that schedule brushed up against one of the busiest banking weeks of the entire year. That means some will see a deposit appear early in the morning, disappear from pending status, and then reappear after the bank finalizes the file. It's unsettling, but it's not a loss. It's just part of the December chaos cycle. And here's the part nobody explains clearly. In December, the system can create what feels like a missing payment even when the money is exactly on time because the expected pattern breaks. If your November deposit arrived early and your December deposit arrives late, it creates a visual gap. That gap makes people think something is wrong with their benefits, even when every check is accounted for exactly as planned. Before you panic, here's the part everyone needs to hear. The truth is your benefits are safe. Nothing is being taken away. Nothing is being reduced. December looks chaotic on the outside, but once you understand the pattern, everything becomes predictable. Here's the first thing you need to do. Identify which group you belong to. Once you know your category, you instantly know why your date looks different. Here's the second step. Know that early payments aren't extra money. They're not bonuses. It's simply the regular benefit being moved to the last business day before a holiday. It feels strange because it breaks the monthly rhythm, but your total yearly amount never changes. Here's the third thing you need to understand. Bank delays in December do not mean your benefits were denied, rejected, or frozen. A delayed pending status does not mean there's a problem. It just means your bank might be processing end-of-year files or holding deposits until the next clearing window. If your money doesn't show at midnight like it normally does, that's not a signal that something is wrong. Now let's talk about safety. If you ever receive a text or email claiming your benefits are suspended, blocked, or frozen because of December's changes, ignore it immediately. That message is fake. Scammers know December is confusing and they target people at moments just like this. The safest place to confirm your payment is your secure account or your bank's official app, nowhere else. Despite the misalignment window and the banking delays, every December payment is still being released on schedule from the federal side. The confusion is only about when it shows up in your bank account, not whether you get it. That is a huge difference. Your money is guaranteed as long as you're eligible. The system hasn't failed. It just shifted. And finally, take a deep breath because you're okay. December always feels chaotic, but this year layered multiple timing issues on top of each other. Once the calendar flips into January, everything resets. The delays clear. The early payments normalize. The banking system returns to its usual rhythm and the confusion disappears overnight.